Welcome back to the shop and the Tablesaw only chess set project. Today we're going to do the bishop, and he's really simple, but it required a tool that I currently didn't own. I didn't actually own a taper jig, so I made this one yesterday so that I could do the video today. And this is a really simple thing. It's two pieces of straight wood, a hinge, which you can see I just made out of leather because I didn't actually have a hinge and didn't want to go to the hardware store. A piece of wood here that's got a slot cut in it, and I cut that with the CNC machine. Just kind of wrote a little G-code program manually, and this was a wooden knob that I already had, and there's some 1/4-20 threaded all thread underneath of this, so it literally just screws in. And then in the hole that's in this second piece of wood right here, all I did with that was I just threaded it with a regular metal threading tap and die set, and then I filled it with super glue, a medium super glue. Thank you, from Star Bond. Not sponsored yet. Hopefully I can talk to them and get a discount code for you guys. Star Bond is great. Their various viscosities of thicknesses of super glue are really CA glue. Super glue is a brand name. Cyanoacrylate glue are really great, and their accelerator is terrific. You know, I can't figure out why the big box stores don't sell accelerator. I mean, it's a non-toxic spray. Why aren't you selling accelerator? You know, Lowe's and Home Depot is kind of goofy. Anyway, so the only thing I need to do here, this is a really simple setup. I have an angle finder, and I don't really need that, but I wanted to make sure that the various angles that are on this bishop are all the same, and it turns out they are. And the shoulders, similar to the way I did the knight, the shoulders are all the same all the way around. This is cut on 3 sides, and then the 2 of the faces are left flat. These 2 opposite faces here on the octagon. So there's 6 sides that are cut, 6 cuts that need to be made, and 2 that are the same. So I set my angle gauge against one of these faces, and then I could verify that they were in fact all the same. So all I need to do now in order to set this, I can use the piece that I already had, or I can use this angle finder, and I'm just going to lay it against the blade, and I can move my my gauge up against the gauge like this, over a little bit. One of the things I wanted to do with this, the way I made this jig, is I wanted to make sure that it was taller than my table saw fence, so I knew that this would clear. If you buy a commercial one, sometimes they're curved, and that will keep this top lock piece flush on this outside face. I don't want to have to bother with that. This is just straight, and it's just cut, a slot just cut in here. So let's just look at this angle. I'm looking at the angle here against the gauge that I set. That's exactly what I need. Tighten that down. I don't have a lot of pressure against this. Most of the pressure is against this end piece. Now this end piece, this is going to be sacrificial. All the rest of this, I went ahead and gave it a nice surface and finished it, you know, put a coat of boiled linseed oil on it. I'm not going to need that. I don't really want to bother to do that on this little end stop block here, because it's going to be sacrificial. It's going to get cut into kind of every time you do a cut. So then I can use my existing piece, put it here, figure out from that, right, how far this needs to be, and then move him up against the blade. Let's just do that. have a little gear tooth on the back side of this. I'm just going to push that up to the edge of the blade right there. And then when I cut this, that'll be just what I need. Now you can see it'll cut into this. It'll cut into this end stop. But that's what I need to do. All right, lock the fence down. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use this nice long piece of walnut in order to cut this. That lets me keep my hands away from the blade pretty much. It won't be making a cut until it's all the way back here. So one thing I had to do with this old octagon that I had that I'm making these pieces out of is it wasn't super consistent in terms of its face-to-face distance. And you can see on the dial caliper here, I hope, that this is just basically exactly 1.5 inches, but I had to, doing this backwards is a nuisance. There we go, 1.5. 1.5. So they weren't all super consistent, and I had to actually re-rip that here on the table saw, and I got them all to within, you know, less than a 64th of an inch. The reason is because the first time I tried to cut it, actually the shoulders didn't line up, and that was because the distances across are different here, and it's registered. The one edge is registered against here, so if it's further, you know, narrow or wider, it's going to be further or closer to this, and then you're going to get a different cut. The cuts aren't going to match. So let's reset this angle and try it again. So I've got my older piece here. I'm just going to slide this up against it, and that actually needs to be set a little further out. All right, now maybe just a hair more. Well, this is a 2 feet long edge here, so changing this doesn't change the angle very much. It gives you nice precision control against that. And as you can see, one of the things I'm doing is I'm sliding the piece against the jig this way, and it moves the piece closer to the blade, so I can gauge how close I am to having that edge cut, and that looks really good. Okay, set him aside, pull him back, make sure that's locked down. Now I need to make so the angle's good. I need to figure out where I want this cut to start, and that I need to do again with this piece by sliding this up. Obviously it needs to be further away because I really want it to cut right up against here. So I'm going to slowly move my fence over. I'm just eyeing right down the edge of the piece that I already had here to gauge where I want that. Now I'm going to lock my fence down. And the nice thing about having a long piece like this is I should be able to pretty nicely keep my hands out of the way. I can hold that piece way up here so that actually when I engage the blade, I'm significantly away. I have long enough arms I can do that. I'm going to maybe hold it a little closer. The blade won't engage to here. My hands are well behind the blade, and I'm not standing behind the table saw. You can see I'm standing off to the edge. Never stand behind a table saw. Never stand here, because any kickback that you get is going to come straight back. And I've gotten hit in the belly with a piece of plywood before. Bad plan. Don't do that. like to wait for the table saw to completely stop before I really move any outside of it. So let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit and show you where we are with this. These shoulders didn't quite match, but that's pretty easy to fix with sandpaper when we go to sand that face. These were less so. This is much deeper than that. That's going to be harder to fix, especially if I want these set of shoulders to match these set of shoulders. So it's going to take some sanding to fix this. I could probably tweak it by changing the depth of the cut, but what that means is that this is wider across these two faces where that edge doesn't match. Shoulders further back. This is wider than the rest of it, and I could actually. And this one's narrower. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's not super consistent. So I'm gonna have to just fix that in the sanding process. But I've got just about the same tapers that I had on the original. Okay, so I got some cleanup to do on these. The shoulders, these faces, the shoulders don't quite match. And the biggest thing is that this shoulder is much further down than the other ones. See if I can give you a picture of that. This shoulder right here is much further down than this one. So the one way that I can fix that is actually remove the flat of this face and run that down. And the easiest way to do that, and the least error-prone way to do that, is going to be with a hand plane. So we go over to my big bench and get this piece set up in a vise where I can run a good hand plane across that face and bring that shoulder down a little bit. So the biggest thing about working on small pieces like this is work holding. And you can see I've got this in a wooden jaw vise, and I have that C-clamp to my big bench. I have an extremely shallow cut set up here on one of my number 5 planes. I'm going to try and just shave that. And I can make sure that the shoulders stay even. There we go. That got that shoulder perfectly straight. Okay, so I got the shoulders cleaned up here on this using a hand plane. I did actually do it on a couple of the faces. If I wanted the shoulder to be lower, I could plane this face. If I wanted the shoulder to be higher, I can plane the flat edge. And as you can see, they're all pretty even now. And any little other irregularities I can get out with sandpaper. So now it's all down to the sanding. But that's the mechanical part of actually getting this cut with the table saw. Thanks for following along. I really appreciate all the really nice views I've gotten. It's pretty cool. Hopefully you got some nice tricks and tips here using a taper jig, and a little bit about building that taper jig. It took me about an hour and a half and a little bit more for some of the aesthetics, but I waited overnight for the first coat of boiled linseed oil to dry, and I'll actually oil that a couple more times. I made that tall and heavy, and it should last me a really long time. I didn't have one, so it's a good excuse to make one in order to do this project. The prior time that I did this, when I made these guys, I think what I did was laid the blade over and cut it vertically, which is crazy. It really needed to be done this way with the taper jig. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, but there's also a right way and a wrong way, and that was definitely the taper jig was definitely the right way to do that. All right, thanks for following along. Do all that like and subscribe stuff. I appreciate that. Next week we're going to do the king. hopefully next week. I know this was 2 weeks, if you're actually following along with the whole series, this was 2 weeks. Work intervened. I had an entire weekend of stuff to do. I ended up working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when I was supposed to have a 3-day weekend. And I also did 4 audio shows that week. Ran sound for a neat place in northern Baltimore County called the Manor Mill. Look up Manor Mill. I'll put the link in the description. I ran sound for them, and there's some shorts on my channel from the Manor Mill. A couple of great artists. Every show that I've been to there, they tend to do a lot of old-fashioned and folk music and a lot of acoustic stuff. But they had a disco night. The disco night was a hoot. And everybody who's been there has been just really terrific. Angelo, who runs the Manor Mill, is just getting a great selection of guests. So looking forward to that. And then I ran sound for an electronica festival. Guys with big modular synthesizers, and I took my Klipsch speakers out. You can see a little bit about the Klipsch here on the channel. And I have a Cerwin Vega LC36 subwoofer, big giant 18-inch subwoofer. I took that out and let the modular guys play with the subsonics. All right. So back to woodworking. King next week and Queen after that. The King is neat. He's only got one setup. One setup on the table saw. These are all just made with a 45-degree angle cut. Let's see if I can show you that real quick. And if you can see the cut that's right in here. Let me see if I can get that just right on this camera view. You can just see that there's just an angle cut through here, and then the only thing is we're using an alternate top bevel blade, and so it leaves a little bit of a ridge, so you do have to get in there. And I think I got in there with a file before, so I think I have a real thin file. So anyhow, we'll go through all that in the next episode. Thanks a lot. Go out to your shop, make some wood, make some sawdust, make something out of wood. Make something out of metal, make something out of plastic. Just make something. All right, thanks.